My sister was dead. That was the only truth I held onto as I stood outside the gates of the Moretti estate, wearing her clothes, her perfume, her identity. Lydia Blackwood Moretti, beloved wife of Roman Moretti, killed in a tragic car accident 6 months ago, was about to come back from the dead, and I was going to find out who really killed her. The gates opened with a groan that seemed to echo through the December cold. The estate stretched before me, a Gothic monstrosity of dark stone and pointed arches, looking less like a home and more like something that should have been haunted. Maybe it was. Mrs. Moretti. The guard at the gate was staring at me like he'd seen a ghost. In a way, he had. That's impossible. I know this is a shock. I kept my voice soft, matching the recordings I'd studied for 3 months. Lydia's voice had been similar to mine. We were sisters after all, but not identical. I'd practiced until my throat was raw, until I could slip into her cadence without thinking. I was in an accident. Amnesia. I've only just recovered enough to remember who I am. But we buried you. I attended the funeral. You buried an empty casket. I let my eyes fill with tears, real tears for my sister, for the lie I was living, for everything that had led to this moment. The medical examiner made a mistake. By the time anyone realized, I'd been transferred to a hospital upstate. No identification. No memories. The guard reached for his phone with trembling hands. I need to call Mr. Moretti. Of course. He should know I'm home. I waited in the cold, breath misting in the air, counting the seconds until everything would change. The guard's voice was a murmur in the distance, urgent, disbelieving, afraid. Then he returned, his face pale. Mr. Moretti wants to see you immediately. The inside of the estate was exactly as Lydia had described in her letters: dark wood paneling, teak furniture, portraits of dead Morettis lining the walls, their painted eyes following every movement. Felt less like a home and more like a museum or a mausoleum. How had she lived here? How had my bright, vibrant sister survived in this monument to death and tradition? Maybe she hadn't. Maybe that's why she died. The guard led me to a study on the second floor, knocked once, and retreated like the room contained a predator. Which I supposed it did. Come in. The voice sent chills down my spine. I'd heard it before, in recordings I'd obtained through less than legal means. But hearing it in person was different. Deeper. More commanding. The voice of a man who had never been told no. I pushed open the door. Roman Moretti stood by the window, silhouetted against the gray winter sky. He was exactly what I'd expected and nothing like I'd imagined. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in black that made him look like a shadow come to life. His hair was dark and slightly too long, curling at his collar. His jaw was sharp enough to cut glass, but his eyes, God, his eyes, dark brown, almost black, holding the kind of intensity that made you feel like prey. He didn't speak. Just studied me with an expression I couldn't read. I forced myself to breathe. To stay in character. To be Lydia. Roman. My voice trembled. Genuine emotion this time, though not for the reasons he'd assume. I know this must be a shock. I can explain everything. Where have you been? Question was quiet. Too quiet. A hospital. State. I had no memory, no identification. It took months for the fog to clear, and even now there are gaps. What hospital? Catherine's. In Albany. The lie was carefully constructed. A real hospital, a real town, records that had been altered by a contact who owed me favors. I was brought in after the accident. Jane Doe. They didn't know who I was until I started remembering. And you came here. Alone. Without calling first. I didn't know if you'd believe me. I stepped closer, keeping my eyes locked on his. I wasn't sure I believed it myself. But I remembered this house. I remembered you. He moved then, crossing the distance between us with predatory grace, stopping close enough that I could smell his cologne. Something dark. Something that reminded me of funeral flowers. Look at me, he commanded. I raised my eyes to his, praying that my contact lenses, matched to Lydia's exact shade of blue, would hold under scrutiny. "You look like her," he murmured. "Sound like her. Even smell like her. I am her. Are you?" His hand came up, cupping my jaw with surprising gentleness. His thumb traced my cheekbone, my temple, the curve of my ear. "You have her face, her voice, her mannerisms. Because I'm your wife. My wife is dead." His voice was soft, deadly. "I watched them lower her casket into the ground. I visit her grave every week. I've spent 6 months mourning a woman who apparently never died. Roman, if you're lying to me, if this is some kind of con, I want you to understand what will happen." His grip tightened fractionally. "I will find out. And when I do, no one will ever find your body." Fear shot through me, real, primal fear. But I held my ground. "I'm not lying. I'm your wife. I've come home." For a long moment, he just stared at me. Then something shifted in his expression. Resignation, maybe, or calculation. "We'll see." He released me, stepping back. "Elena will want to verify your story. So will our doctor. If everything checks out, it will. Then welcome home, Lydia." He smiled, and it was the coldest thing I'd ever seen. "I've missed you." They gave me Lydia's old room. It was exactly as she'd left it. Clothes in the closet, books on the nightstand, photographs on the dresser showing moments I'd never witnessed. My sister's life, preserved like a shrine. I sat on the bed, staring at a picture of Lydia and Roman on their wedding day. She was radiant, happy. The man beside her looked at her like she was the only thing in the world worth seeing. Had that look been real? Or had I been wrong about everything? The official story was simple. Lydia had died in a car accident on a rainy October night. Lost control on a curve. Crashed into a ravine. The body so damaged that the casket had been closed, but Lydia had been the best driver I knew. She'd never lost control of anything in her life, and in the weeks before her death, she'd left me voicemails. Strange, fragmented messages that I dismissed at the time as stress or paranoia. "I found something, Sarah. Something I shouldn't have. I don't know who to trust. If anything happens to me, look at the money. Follow the money. I'm scared. For the first time since I married him, I'm actually scared. I've been too busy with my own life to listen. Too caught up in my own drama, the academy expulsion, the job loss, the spiral that had consumed me for months. By the time I'd finally called her back, she was already dead. The guilt was a constant companion now. A weight I carried everywhere, pressing against my chest with every breath. I was going to find out what happened to her. And if Roman Moretti had killed my sister, I was going to destroy him, even if it meant becoming her dinner was a test. Elena Moretti, Roman's mother, a severe woman in her 60s with silver hair and eyes like chips of obsidian, watched my every move with barely concealed suspicion. "You hold your fork differently," she observed. The amnesia affected my motor skills. I had to relearn many things. "Your voice is slightly higher than I remember. Vocal cord damage from the accident. The doctors said it might be permanent. And your walk, mother." Roman's voice cut through the interrogation. "Enough. I'm simply observing. You're harassing my wife." He didn't raise his voice, but something in his tone made Elena go pale. "She's been through a traumatic experience. She deserves compassion, not cross-examination." Elena's jaw tightened. "Forgive me, Lydia. I'm simply overwhelmed. We all mourned you. Seeing you here alive, it's difficult to process. I understand." I reached across the table, covering her hand with mine, a gesture Lydia would have made, according to Dr. Tanaka, who'd been feeding me information for weeks. "This is difficult for all of us. I'm not asking anyone to accept me immediately. Just to give me the chance to prove who I am." Elena studied me for a long moment. Then she nodded once and returned to her meal. I felt Roman's eyes on me throughout the rest of dinner. Watching. Waiting. He knew something was wrong. I could feel it, but he was playing along. And I needed to figure out why that night he came to my room. I was prepared, dressed in one of Lydia's nightgowns, my hair loose the way she'd worn it. But nothing could have prepared me for the way Roman looked at me in the dim light. "You're afraid of me." It wasn't a question. Should I be? Most people are. He moved closer, and I forced myself not to retreat. "You weren't. Before." Lydia was never afraid of anything. Maybe dying changed me. Maybe. He stopped an arm's length away. "Or maybe you're not who you claim to be." My heart stopped. "Roman, don't." His voice was soft but absolute. "I've been patient. I've played along with your performance. But I know my wife, Sarah." The name hit me like a physical blow. "I don't know what you're," Sarah Blackwood. Lydia's younger sister. Former FBI Academy student expelled for insubordination. Current private investigator with a specialty in insurance fraud. He tilted his head. "Did you really think I wouldn't recognize you?" "How, the birthmark?" His hand reached out, brushing the fabric of my nightgown aside to reveal my left shoulder. The small crescent moon mark that had been there since birth. Lydia never had that. I know every inch of my wife's body. I would know if she'd had a birthmark. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. My entire plan was crumbling around me. "If you knew," I managed, "why did you let me in? Why play along?" "Because I wanted to know why." He stepped closer, and suddenly I was trapped between him and the wall. Why would Lydia's sister go to such elaborate lengths to infiltrate my home? What could she possibly hope to find? "I think you know." "Say it." "You killed her." The words came out fierce, accusatory. "You killed my sister, and I'm going to prove it." Roman was silent for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he laughed. It wasn't a cruel laugh. It was broken. Devastated. "You think I killed Lydia?" He pulled back, running a hand through his hair. "I loved her more than anything in this world. I would have died for her. I would have burned cities for her. Then who? That's what I've been trying to find out for 6 months." His eyes met mine, and for the first time I saw something other than coldness in them. Pain. Genuine, devastating pain. Someone murdered my wife. And if you're half as clever as your sister, you're going to help me find out who. The revelation changed everything. I'd spent 3 months preparing to destroy Roman Moretti. Now I was standing in his study at midnight, sharing a drink with the man I'd assumed was my sister's killer. "Start from the beginning," I said. "What do you know about Lydia's death?" "The official story is an accident. Lost control on a wet road, car went into a ravine." Roman stared into his whiskey. "But the brake lines had been cut. The police report was altered. Someone with significant resources wanted my wife dead and wanted it to look like an accident." "How do you know the report was altered?" "'Cause I paid someone to access the original. Before the corrections were made." He pulled a folder from his desk, sliding it toward me. Forensic analysis showed the brakes were tampered with. That information never made it to the final report. I opened the folder with trembling hands. The documents inside confirmed everything he'd said, and more. Evidence of tampering, witness statements that had been redacted, a timeline that didn't add up. "If you had this, why didn't you go public? Demand a real investigation? Because whoever did this has connections inside law enforcement. Inside my own organization." His voice was bitter. The moment I pushed, evidence started disappearing. Witnesses stopped talking. I realized that if I wanted justice, I couldn't get it through official channels. "So you've been investigating on your own?" "For 6 months. Getting nowhere." He met my eyes. "Until you walked through my door, wearing my dead wife's face, and gave me something I didn't have before." "What?" "A fresh perspective. Someone who knew Lydia before she became a Moretti. Someone who might see things I've missed. Or someone you can use as bait. That too. He didn't deny it. Whoever killed Lydia has been silent since her death. But if they believe she's returned, that there's a witness who might have seen something, remembered something, they might make a move. You want to use me to draw out the killer. I want to catch my wife's murderer. If that means putting you at risk, yes. His eyes held mine without apology. But I'll also protect you. Whatever resources I have are at your disposal. Why should I trust you? You just admitted you're willing to use me as bait. 'Cause we want the same thing. Justice for Lydia. He stood, moving to the window. And because if I'd wanted to hurt you, I would have done it the moment I realized who you were. He had a point. A terrifying, valid point. What do you need from me? Information. You said Lydia left you messages before she died. That she'd found something she shouldn't have. She mentioned money. It told me to follow the money. What money? I don't know. I was hoping you could tell me. Roman was quiet for a moment. Lydia had access to our financial records. She helped manage certain aspects of the household, legitimate businesses, charity foundations. If she found something, she might have discovered someone was stealing, or laundering, or worse. His jaw tightened. I've had my accountants review everything multiple times. They found nothing. Maybe they're the ones hiding it. Possible. But I trust my accountants. They've been with my family for decades. Trust can be misplaced. You trusted whoever killed Lydia. The words landed like a blow. Roman's expression flickered, pain, guilt, something darker. You're right. I did. He turned to face me. Which is why I need someone who doesn't trust anyone. Someone who'll question everything, examine everyone, refuse to accept convenient answers. Someone like me. Someone exactly like you. He extended his hand. We work together. Share information. And when we find out who killed Lydia, we make them pay. I took his hand. His grip was warm, firm, surprisingly gentle. Welcome to the investigation, Sarah. Something shifted in his eyes. And for what it's worth, I'm sorry about your sister. She deserved better than what she got. She deserved to live. Yes, she did. The investigation began the next morning. Roman provided me with everything I needed. Access to Lydia's personal files, her computer, her correspondence. I spent hours combing through emails, texts, documents, searching for anything that might explain what she'd discovered. She was methodical, I observed to Roman that evening. Everything organized, categorized, filed. But there are gaps. Missing emails from the weeks before her death. Files that have been deleted. I noticed that too. Whoever did this was thorough. Not thorough enough. I pulled up a recovered document on my laptop. I found fragments in the backup system. Lydia was tracking payments to something called the Obsidian Foundation, our charitable arm. We donate to various causes, except these payments weren't going to causes. They were going to shell companies, offshore accounts. Millions of dollars, Roman. Millions. His expression darkened. I didn't authorize those payments. Someone did. Using your foundation as a front. I turned the laptop toward him. The authorization signatures are forged. Good forgeries, but not perfect. Lydia must have noticed the discrepancies. And started digging. And got killed for it. I sat back. Who has access to the foundation's accounts? Who could make payments without your knowledge? Marco Benedetti, our family attorney. He manages the foundation's legal affairs. Roman's voice was tight. And my mother, Elena, she's on the foundation's board. Has been for 30 years. The implications hung between us, heavy and terrible. You think your mother could have killed Lydia? I don't know what to think anymore. He stood, pacing the room. Elena never approved of Lydia. Thought she wasn't good enough for the family. But murder? I can't believe she'd go that far. People do terrible things for money. And for pride. I know. That's what frightens me. The confrontation with Marco came 3 days later. Roman arranged a meeting at the estate, framing it as routine business. I watched from an adjacent room through a hidden camera, studying the attorney's every move. Marco Benedetti was in his 50s, silver-haired and distinguished, with the smooth manner of someone who'd spent decades navigating powerful people. He didn't seem nervous, but then men like him rarely did. The foundation audit is proceeding smoothly, he reported to Roman. No irregularities found. Really? Because I've found several. Roman slid a folder across the desk. Payments to shell companies. Forged authorizations. Millions missing over the past 3 years. Marco's composure cracked, just slightly, just for a moment. I don't know what you're talking about. I think you do. I think you've been stealing from my family for years. And I think when Lydia discovered what you were doing, you killed her. That's absurd. I loved Lydia like a daughter. You're lying. Roman's voice was ice. I've known you my entire life, Marco. I know when you're lying. Roman, I swear to you, don't. He stood, leaning over the desk. You have one chance to tell me the truth. One chance to explain yourself before I hand this evidence to people who will be far less patient than I am. Marco's face went pale. I didn't kill her. His voice was a whisper. I swear on my children's lives I didn't kill Lydia. But you were stealing. A long pause. Then, finally, a nod. I needed money. Gambling debts. I thought I could replace it before anyone noticed. But Lydia, she was too sharp. She found the discrepancies, started asking questions. So you killed her? No. I would never. Marco's composure shattered completely. I told someone. Someone who promised to handle it. To convince her to stay quiet. Who? I can't. Who, Marco? The attorney looked up, and I saw genuine terror in his eyes. Elena. I told Elena. I found Roman in the garden an hour later, standing by a frozen fountain, staring at nothing. It doesn't prove anything, I said quietly. Marco's word against hers. Proves my mother knew about the theft. Knew Lydia was investigating. His voice was hollow. And instead of coming to me, she took matters into her own hands. We don't know that she's the one who ordered, don't we? He turned to face me. My mother has controlled this family for decades. Nothing happens in this house without her knowledge. Nothing. Then we need to confront her. Get the truth. And if the truth is what I think it is, if my mother murdered my wife, his eyes held mine, filled with a devastation I hadn't expected. What then? I didn't have an answer. I loved Lydia, he continued. More than I've ever loved anyone. She was the first person who made me believe I could be something other than what my family wanted. Something good. She believed in you. She believed in a version of me that might not exist. He laughed bitterly. A version that wouldn't hesitate to destroy his own mother to avenge his wife. Am I that man, Sarah? Can I be? I don't know. I moved closer. But I know you owe it to Lydia to find out the truth. Whatever that truth is. Even if it destroys everything. Especially then. He studied me for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he reached out, his hand finding my face, his thumb tracing my cheekbone. You look so much like her. But you're different. I know. Harder. More guarded. Like you've learned not to trust anyone. I have. So have I. His hand dropped. But I trusted Lydia. And I'm starting to trust you. That might be a mistake. Probably. He smiled, a real smile, small but genuine. But I've always been better at making mistakes than avoiding them. Something shifted between us in that moment. Something I wasn't prepared for and didn't want to examine too closely. This was about justice. About Lydia. She couldn't be about anything else. The truth came out that night. We confronted Elena together, Roman and I, standing united in a way I hadn't expected. She received us in her private sitting room, her expression carefully blank. "You look well, Lydia." Her voice was cold. "Though I suspect that's not your real name. You know who I am." I suspected from the beginning. Lydia never had that particular look in her eyes, that hunger for truth regardless of consequence. Elena's gaze moved to Roman. "I assume this theatrical production has a purpose." "Marco told us everything," Roman said. "The embezzlement. The fact that Lydia discovered it. The fact that you knew. Marco is a weak man who would say anything to save himself." "Mother. Please." Roman's voice cracked. "Just tell me the truth. Did you have Lydia killed?" Elena was silent for a long moment. Then she stood, moving to the window with measured grace. "Your wife was a liability. She came from nothing, had nothing, was nothing, and yet she had the audacity to investigate our family's affairs, to question decisions made by people who've been protecting this family for generations. That doesn't answer my question. She found the payments, yes. Demanded explanations I wasn't willing to give. Threatened to expose everything unless I came to you." Elena turned, and I saw something cold and terrible in her eyes. "I couldn't let her destroy what I'd spent my life building. So you killed her." "I protected my family." "There's a difference." The confession hung in the air, simple, devastating, absolute. "Your family." Roman's voice was barely audible. "Lydia was your family. I loved her. You loved an illusion. A pretty face who didn't understand her place. Her place was at my side. As my wife. As the mother of the children we'd planned to have." Roman's hands were shaking. "You took all of that. Destroyed everything. I saved you from a mistake. In time you'll understand. I'll never understand." He moved toward her, and for a moment I thought he might strike her. But he stopped, his entire body trembling with restrained violence. "You're my mother." "I can't. I won't, Roman." Elena's voice softened slightly. "Everything I did was for you. For the family. Surely you can see. I see a murderer." He stepped back. "I see someone I don't recognize anymore." He turned and walked out, leaving me alone with his mother. Elena studied me with cold calculation. "You think you've won. That exposing me means justice has been served. It means the truth is finally known." "Truth?" She laughed. "Truth is whatever the powerful decide it is. And despite this little performance, I am still powerful. Still connected. Still capable of making problems disappear. Like you made Lydia disappear. Like I'll make you disappear if you're not careful." She stepped closer. "Go home, Sarah Blackwood. Forget what you've learned here. Mourn your sister quietly and move on with your life. And if I refuse, then you'll join her much sooner than you planned." I should have been afraid. Should have retreated, regrouped, found safer ground. Instead, I smiled. "You really don't know who you're dealing with, do you? A failed FBI agent playing detective, a woman who just recorded your full confession." I pulled out my phone, showing her the audio file. "Who has backup copies stored in multiple secure locations? Who has contacts in federal law enforcement who would be very interested in hearing about murder, embezzlement, and criminal conspiracy?" Elena's face went pale. "You wouldn't dare." "I would. I will. Unless you do exactly what I say." For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes, and I understood finally why Lydia had loved this world. Not for the power or the money, for moments like this, when the predators became prey. The aftermath was chaos. Elena was placed under house arrest. Roman's decision, not mine. He couldn't bring himself to hand his mother over to the authorities immediately, even knowing what she'd done. I need time, he said when I questioned his choice. Time to process, to decide what kind of justice Lydia deserves. She deserves to see her killer in prison. She deserves many things she'll never get. His voice was hollow. But I won't make this decision in anger. I won't become the monster my mother thinks I am. I wanted to argue, wanted to demand immediate action, consequences, punishment, but I saw the devastation in his eyes, and I understood that he wasn't protecting Elena. He was protecting himself from becoming someone who could destroy his own mother without hesitation. 1 week, I said. You have 1 week to decide. After that, I'm taking the recording to the FBI. Fair enough. The week that followed was strange and terrible and unexpectedly intimate. Roman and I spent hours together, reviewing evidence, reconstructing Lydia's final days, trying to understand not just how she died but why Elena had felt murder was the only solution. She was afraid, Roman concluded one evening. Afraid that Lydia would expose the embezzlement, destroy the Foundation's reputation, bring scrutiny to operations that couldn't survive scrutiny. What operations? Nothing illegal, but not entirely legitimate either. He rubbed his eyes. My family has existed in gray areas for generations. We've cultivated relationships, made investments, accumulated influence in ways that don't bear close examination. You're saying your charity was a front. I'm saying it served multiple purposes. Some charitable, some political, some purely mercenary. He met my eyes. I'm not proud of it. But I didn't create the system, I inherited it. And Lydia threatened to expose it. Lydia threatened to drag everything into the light. She didn't understand that some things survive only in shadow. So your mother killed her for being honest? My mother killed her for being dangerous. His voice was bitter. To Elena, honesty and danger are the same thing. I thought about my sister, bright, principled, determined to do right even when right was complicated. She'd married into this family believing she could change it. Instead, it had destroyed her. She deserved better, I said quietly. She deserved everything. Roman's hand found mine. And I failed her. I should have protected her from my own family. Should have seen the danger before it was too late. You couldn't have known. I should have. His grip tightened. That's what haunts me. Not just that she's gone, but that I was blind to the threat in my own house. You loved your mother. It's natural to. Love doesn't excuse blindness, doesn't excuse failure. He looked at me with an intensity that made my breath catch. I won't fail again. Whatever happens next, I won't let another person I care about be destroyed by my family's darkness. Another person you care about? The words hung between us, heavy with implication. You're Lydia's sister. You came here seeking justice. You've risked everything to find the truth. His thumb traced circles on my palm. How could I not care about someone like that? I came here to destroy you. I know. I thought you killed her. I know that too. And you still, he smiled, sad, broken, but genuine. Maybe that makes me foolish, or desperate, or simply tired of being alone with my grief. Roman, you don't have to say anything. I'm not asking for anything in return. He released my hand, creating distance that felt colder than it should have. I just wanted you to know that you matter. That what you've done here, finding the truth, forcing my mother to confess, matters. Even though it's destroying your family. My family destroyed itself the moment it chose murder over honesty. His eyes held mine. You're not the destroyer here, Sarah. You're the revelation. The connection between us deepened without either of us acknowledging it. We ate meals together. Reviewed evidence together. sat in comfortable silence while the fire crackled and the winter wind howled outside. I told him about Lydia, not the wife he'd known but the sister I'd grown up with. The girl who'd taught me to ride a bike. The teenager who'd covered for me when I snuck out at night. The young woman who'd believed so fiercely in justice that she'd pursued it even when it got her killed. He told me about his father, dead 10 years now, killed by rivals in a conflict that had shaped everything Roman became. About the pressure of inheriting an empire he'd never wanted. About the loneliness of being surrounded by people who wanted something from him. Lydia was different, he said one night. She never wanted anything except to understand me. To know the real person beneath the title and the reputation. Did she find him? I think so. I hope so. He stared into the fire. I was becoming someone better with her. Someone I actually wanted to be. And now I don't know who I am. He turned to look at me. But I know who I want to be. Someone who honors her memory. Someone who chooses truth over convenience. Someone worthy of the love she gave me. You can still be that person. Can I? His laugh was bitter. My mother murdered my wife and I'm still protecting her. What does that say about the person I am? It says you're human. That you're struggling with something impossible. I moved closer, driven by an impulse I couldn't name. Lydia would understand that. Would she? She always saw the best in people. Even when they couldn't see it themselves. She saw the best in me. His voice cracked. And I failed her. You're not failing her now. I took his face in my hands, forcing him to meet my eyes. You're fighting for justice. For truth. That's what she would have wanted. How do you know? 'Cause she was my sister. Because I knew her better than anyone. My voice softened. And because I'm starting to understand why she loved you. The confession slipped out before I could stop it. Roman went still. Sarah, I know it's complicated. I know I came here to destroy you. I know this is the worst possible time for. He kissed me. It wasn't gentle or tentative. It was desperate, the kiss of a man who'd been drowning and finally found air. His hands tangled in my hair, pulling me closer, and I responded with equal intensity. When we separated, we were both breathing hard. I started. A mistake. His voice was rough. But one I'd make again. We can't do this. Lydia is dead. The words were brutal in their simplicity. I loved her. I'll always love her. But she's gone and you're here and I can't stop feeling what I feel. What do you feel? I don't know. Something I wasn't prepared for. Something that terrifies me. His forehead touched mine. You came here wearing her face and somewhere along the way I started seeing you instead. Is that good or bad? I don't know. He pulled back slightly. But I know I don't want you to leave. Whatever happens with Elena, whatever comes next, I want you here. Roman, you don't have to decide anything now. Just don't disappear. Don't walk out of my life the moment this is over. I looked at him, this man I'd come to destroy, who'd become something else entirely. An ally. Partner. Maybe more. I'm not going anywhere, I said. Not yet. The decision about Elena came on the 7th day. Roman called me to his study at midnight, his expression resolved in a way I hadn't seen before. I've decided. And she goes to the authorities. Tomorrow. With full confession and all supporting evidence. That will destroy your family publicly. My family is already destroyed. The only question is whether we face that destruction honestly or continue hiding in shadow. He met my eyes. I choose honesty. It's what Lydia would have wanted. What about the business? The foundation? Everything you've built? I'll rebuild. Differently this time. Legitimately. He moved closer. I've spent my whole life maintaining systems I inherited. Maybe it's time to create something new. That's a big change. I've had a big wake-up call. His hand found my face. You showed me what I was too afraid to see. That the life I was living wasn't sustainable. That eventually the truth comes out, and it's better to be the one revealing it than the one hiding from it. I'm not sure I can take credit for that. You can. You do. He kissed my forehead. You came here to destroy me, and instead you saved me. From my family. From myself. From the person I was becoming. I didn't save anyone. I just found the truth. Same thing. He smiled. Will you stay? After Elena is arrested, after the investigations and the trials and the inevitable chaos, will you stay with me? I don't know what staying would look like. Neither do I. But we could figure it out together. His eyes held mine. I'm not asking you to replace Lydia. I'm not asking you to be anything other than what you are. I'm just asking for a chance. To know you. To build something with you. Something built on tragedy. Something built on truth. He took my hands. We met in the worst possible circumstances. But we're here now and we're both changed, and maybe that's enough. I thought about Lydia. About what she would want for me. For Roman. For the future neither of us had planned. She would have wanted you to be happy, I said quietly. I know. She would have wanted me to find someone worth trusting. Am I worth trusting? I looked at him, really looked, and saw not the crime lord I'd expected, but a man who'd chosen truth over power. Who'd sacrificed his own mother for justice. Who'd opened himself to me despite every reason to stay closed. I think you might be. That's not a yes. It's a start. I squeezed his hands. Let's get through tomorrow first. Then we'll talk about what comes next. Fair enough. Elena was arrested the next morning. The FBI came in force. A dozen agents coordinated with local police, treating the Moretti estate like the crime scene it had become. Elena went quietly, her face a mask of cold dignity even as they read her rights. This isn't over, she said to Roman as they led her away. You'll regret this. I already have regrets. His voice was steady. But turning you in isn't one of them. She didn't respond. Just held his gaze for a long moment before disappearing into the back of an unmarked car. When she was gone, Roman stood in the driveway, staring at nothing. It's done, I said quietly. It's beginning. He turned to look at me. Now comes the hard part. Trials. Testimony. The public dismantling of everything my family built. Are you ready? No. He took my hand. But I will be. With you. The trial was a media circus for 3 weeks. Every news outlet in the country covered the Moretti case. The wealthy matriarch accused of murdering her daughter-in-law, the crime empire crumbling under scrutiny, the handsome widower who'd turned in his own mother, and me. I testified on the 4th day. Told the jury everything, my deception, my investigation, the recorded confession. The defense tried to discredit me, calling me a fraud, a manipulator, someone who'd infiltrated a grieving family under false pretenses. They weren't entirely wrong, but the recording was real. The evidence was real. And in the end, that was all that mattered. Elena was convicted of first-degree murder. I watched her face as the verdict was read. Watched the careful composure crack, revealing something raw and desperate underneath. For just a moment, she looked at Roman, her son, who'd chosen justice over blood. He didn't look away. Didn't flinch. Just held her gaze until they led her out of the courtroom. It's over, I said when we were alone. No. His voice was hollow. It's just beginning. The aftermath was brutal. Roman's legitimate businesses survived. Barely, but his reputation was shattered. Former allies distanced themselves. Business partners severed ties. The foundation was dissolved, its assets frozen pending investigation. You could rebuild somewhere else, I suggested one evening. Start fresh. Leave all of this behind. I could. But I won't. He stared out the window at the estate grounds. This is my home. My family has been here for generations. I won't let my mother's crimes erase that history. Some would say the history is exactly the problem. Some would be right. He turned to face me. But running doesn't change who you are. It just means you're running. I'd rather stay and face what I've inherited. Even if it destroys you. It won't. I won't let it. His jaw tightened. I've spent my whole life being shaped by forces I didn't choose. My father's expectations. My mother's manipulations. The weight of a legacy I never asked for. This is my chance to choose for myself. To decide what kind of man I want to be. And what kind is that? Someone Lydia would have been proud of. His eyes found mine. Someone you might be proud of too. The words hung between us, heavy with implication. Roman, I know we haven't talked about what this is. What we are. I've been giving you space, waiting until the trial was over too. I don't need space. He went still. What? I've had space. 3 months of planning this infiltration. 7 weeks of investigating. Another month of trials and testimony. I moved closer. What I need now is something else. What? Honesty. About what's happening between us. I stopped an arm's length away. I came here to destroy you. Instead, I fell in love with you. And I need to know if that's real or if it's just trauma bonding us together. Trauma bonding. 2 people who've shared something terrible, mistaking that intensity for connection. It happens. It's documented. You think what we have is psychological dysfunction? I think I don't know what we have. That's the problem. I met his eyes. You lost your wife. I lost my sister. We've been through hell together. Maybe that's created something genuine. Or maybe it's just created dependency. Roman was quiet for a long moment. Then he closed the distance between us, taking my face in his hands. I've asked myself the same questions. Wondered if what I feel for you is real or just a response to grief and chaos. His thumbs traced my cheekbones. But here's what I know, when I look at you, I don't see Lydia. I see someone entirely different. Someone fierce and stubborn and brilliant. Someone who challenges me in ways Lydia never did. That's not exactly romantic. It's honest. And I promised you honesty. His eyes held mine. I love Lydia. Part of me will always love her. But what I feel for you isn't a replacement or a substitute. Something new. Something that belongs only to us. How can you be sure? Because I've spent the past month trying to convince myself otherwise. Telling myself it was too soon, too complicated, too impossible. He smiled slightly. I failed. Spectacularly. Because every time I try to create distance, I end up wanting you more. That could still be trauma. Could be. Or it could be love. He kissed my forehead. Does the difference matter? It should. But does it? I thought about the past weeks. The way my heart raced whenever he entered a room. The way I'd started looking for excuses to be near him. The way his presence had become the most important part of my day. No, I admitted. It doesn't. He kissed me then, soft at first, then deeper. I responded with everything I'd been holding back, letting the walls I'd built crumble under the weight of something I couldn't name. When we separated, we were both trembling. Stay with me, he said. Not as an investigator. Not as your sister's avenger. Just stay. What would that look like? I don't know. We'd figure it out together. His hands found mine. Build something from the wreckage. To make a life neither of us planned. That's terrifying. Yes, but also possible. He smiled. And for the first time in months, I feel like possibility is enough. I moved into the estate 2 weeks later, not into Lydia's room. That would have been too strange, too loaded with memories neither of us needed to carry. Roman gave me a suite on the opposite wing, with windows facing the garden and enough space to feel like my own. You can redecorate however you want, he said, watching me unpack. Make it yours. That feels premature. What if this doesn't work? Then we'll have learned something. Either way, you shouldn't live in a space that feels like someone else's. He was thoughtful like that, surprisingly attentive to details I'd expected him to overlook. The man I'd researched, cold, calculating, ruthless, bore little resemblance to the person I was coming to know. You're different than I expected, I told him one evening. Better or worse? Different. More human. I studied his face. The files I compiled made you seem like a monster. But you're just a man. A man with monstrous tendencies. A man with monstrous circumstances. There's a difference. Is there? He poured 2 glasses of wine, handing one to me. I've done terrible things, Sarah. Made decisions that cost people their lives. The fact that I've chosen differently recently doesn't erase that history. No. But it does show you're capable of change. Or capable of adapting to new circumstances. Self-interest dressed up as moral evolution. Do you really believe that? He was quiet for a moment. Some days. Other days, I believe I'm genuinely becoming someone better. And then I wonder if that's just what I want to believe. Maybe the wondering is the point. Maybe people who are truly incapable of change don't question themselves at all. That's very generous. It's observant. There's a difference. He smiled, a real smile, one that reached his eyes. You're good at that. Seeing things others miss. It was my job. Before. And now I'm not sure what I am. I set down my wine. I came here with a mission. Purpose. With that gone, I'm adrift. You could work with me. Help rebuild the foundation, legitimately this time. Use your investigative skills to vet partners, identify problems before they become crises. You want to hire me? I want to partner with you. In every sense of the word. His hand found mine. You have abilities I need. I have resources you could use. Together, we could create something meaningful. That sounds like a business proposal. It's a life proposal. His eyes held mine. I'm not asking you to be my employee. I'm asking you to build a future with me. One where we use what we have, our skills, our resources, our hard-won wisdom, to do something good. After everything your family has done, 'cause of everything my family has done. Call it redemption. Call it atonement. Call it whatever you want. His grip tightened. I just know I don't want to do it alone. I looked at him, this man who'd emerged from tragedy transformed. Who'd chosen truth when lies would have been easier. Who was offering me not just partnership but purpose. Okay, I said. Okay, let's build something. Together. His smile was like sunrise after a long, dark night that we visited Lydia's grave on a Sunday morning in February. The cemetery was quiet, snow blanketing the grounds in pristine white. Her headstone was simple, just her name, her dates, and a single line from her favorite poem. I carry your heart with me. I carry it in my heart. She loved Cummings, Roman said quietly. Used to read his poetry to me when she couldn't sleep. I know. She did the same for me when we were kids. I placed flowers on the grave, white roses, her favorite. I used to think it was silly. Carrying someone in your heart seemed like a metaphor for people who couldn't let go. And now I understand. She's still with me. Not in any mystical sense, but in the choices I make. The person I'm becoming. I looked at Roman. She brought us together. In the strangest, most terrible way possible, but she brought us together. Do you think she'd approve? I think she'd be furious that I impersonated her, and confused about why I fell for her husband. I smiled slightly, but ultimately I think she'd want us both to be happy, even if that happiness came from each other. I hope you're right. I am. I knew her better than anyone. I took his hand. She loved you, Roman. Really loved you. And she would have wanted that love to mean something. To transform you into someone better. Has it? You tell me. Are you better than you were? He was quiet for a long moment, staring at the headstone. I'm trying to be, he said finally. Every day. For her. For you. For myself. That's all anyone can do. We stood together in the silence, two people forever changed by a woman who'd loved fiercely and died too young. I'm going to build a center in her name, Roman said suddenly. A resource for women in dangerous situations. Victims of domestic violence, stalking, trafficking. The kind of help Lydia believed in. She would have loved that. I know. That's why I'm doing it. He looked at me. Will you help me design it? Make sure it actually serves the people it's meant to serve. Yes, of course. Then let's begin. He squeezed my hand. It's time to create something that lives up to her memory. We walked away from the grave together, leaving flowers and promises and the weight of everything we'd survived. The past was finally settling into place, and for the first time, the future felt like something to look forward to. 6 months of rebuilding. That's what it took to transform the Moretti Foundation from a front for embezzlement into something genuinely meaningful. 6 months of audits and restructuring and difficult conversations with donors who weren't sure they wanted to be associated with the family name anymore. We've lost 40% of our previous contributors, I reported to Roman one evening, reviewing the latest figures. But the new donors are giving more. And they're more aligned with our actual mission. Quality over quantity. Something like that. I set down the reports. The Lydia Center is ahead of schedule. Construction should be finished by September. We could have our first residents by October. That fast? You threw a lot of money at it. Money makes things happen. Money makes things possible. People make things happen. He moved closer, wrapping his arms around me from behind. People like you. I'm just organizing. You're the one with the vision. We both have the vision. That's what makes this work. He pressed a kiss to my temple. Have I told you lately how grateful I am? That you stayed? That you chose to build this with me instead of walking away? You've mentioned it. I'll keep mentioning it. Until you believe me. I believe you. I turned in his arms. I just still find it strange sometimes. How we got here. The circumstances that brought us together. Strange is one word for it. Twisted. Dark. Completely improbable. I smiled slightly. I came here to destroy you. Now I'm helping you build a women's shelter. Life has a sense of humor. A dark sense of humor. The best kind. Kissed me softly. Come to bed. The reports will still be there tomorrow. I should finish reviewing tomorrow. His voice was firm but gentle. You've been working 16-hour days for weeks. You need rest. So do you. Then we'll rest together. He took my hand, leading me toward the stairs. That's what partners do. The thread emerged 3 days later that I was at the construction site reviewing progress with the project manager when my phone buzzed with an alert from the security system at the estate: unauthorized access. East Wing. Motion detected. I called Roman immediately. No answer. Called Dante. No answer. Called the estate's main line. Nothing. The drive back took 20 minutes that felt like hours. By the time I arrived, police cars were already in the driveway, lights flashing in the early evening darkness. What happened? I demanded, pushing past the officers at the door. Blackwood. Detective Chen, who'd worked Lydia's case, stepped forward. There's been an incident. Where's Roman? He's fine. Minor injuries. But you should prepare yourself. I pushed past him into the house. The study was destroyed. Furniture overturned. Glass shattered. The blood on the carpet. Not much, but enough to make my heart stop, and Roman, sitting on the one remaining intact chair, a paramedic tending to a cut on his forehead. Sarah. He stood the moment he saw me, crossing the room to pull me into his arms. I'm okay. I'm okay. What happened? 2 men. Broke in through the east wing. They were waiting when I came home. His jaw tightened. They had a message. From my mother. Elena? She's in prison. She still has friends. People who believe I betrayed the family. People who want revenge. He pulled back to look at me. They said this was a warning. That if I continued dismantling the Moretti legacy, there would be consequences. What kind of consequences? They didn't specify. Just that I should remember where my loyalties should lie. I looked around the destroyed study. The blood. At the evidence of violence that had come far too close to taking him from me. This isn't going to stop, I said quietly. As long as you're visible, as long as you're changing things, they'll keep coming. I know. We could run. Disappear. Start over somewhere no one knows the Moretti name. We could. He took my face in his hands. But I won't. I'm done running from what I inherited. Done letting fear dictate my choices. Even if it gets you killed. Even then, his eyes held mine. I'd rather die building something meaningful than live forever hiding from shadows. That's noble. It's also stupid. Probably both. He almost smiled. But it's who I am. Who you helped me become. I didn't help you become suicidal. You helped me become brave. There's a difference. He kissed my forehead. We'll increase security. Hire professionals. Take every precaution. But we won't stop. We won't hide. That's not who we are. I wanted to argue. Wanted to grab him and run and never look back, but I understood. The mission, Lydia's mission, now ours, was bigger than fear. Bigger than safety. Bigger than the both of us. If anything happens to you, nothing will happen. You can't promise that. No. But I can promise that whatever happens, it will have been worth it. His hands found mine. We're making a difference, Sarah. Real, tangible difference. The center will help hundreds of women. The foundation is funding programs that save lives. That's worth fighting for. Even dying for? Especially dying for. He squeezed my hands. But I have no intention of dying. Not when I've finally found something worth living for. The next 2 months were a careful balance of caution and defiance. We hired a security team, professionals who'd worked with high-risk clients, who understood the specific threats we faced. They swept the estate for vulnerabilities, installed new systems, established protocols for every possible scenario, and we kept building. The Lydia Center opened on a crisp October morning with 50 women already on the waiting list for services. The ribbon-cutting ceremony was small, just staff, donors, and a few carefully vetted journalists, but the significance was immense. Welcome to the Lydia Moretti Center for Women's Safety, I announced to the gathered crowd. A place where victims become survivors, where darkness is met with light, where the memory of one woman lives on in the lives of many. Roman stood beside me, his hand warm in mine. My wife believed that everyone deserved safety, he said. That no one should have to live in fear. She didn't get to see this dream realized, but her spirit is in every wall, every room, every service we provide. His voice cracked slightly on the last words. I squeezed his hand, anchoring him. This center is named for Lydia, I continued. But it's built by everyone who refused to let her death be meaningless. By everyone who chose hope over despair. By everyone who believes that love, real love, means fighting for something bigger than yourself. The applause was warm, genuine, filled with emotion, and standing there in the center my sister had inspired, I finally felt something I hadn't felt since her death piece. The proposal came that evening. We were on the terrace, watching the sun set over the Connecticut hills, still buzzing from the day's events. "You were remarkable today," Roman said. "Your speech. The way you handled everyone." Lydia would have been proud. She would have been annoyed that I stole her spotlight. She would have been thrilled that her little sister became someone so powerful. He turned to face me. "I have something to ask you." "Another project?" "Because I think we should take at least a week before." "Not a project." He reached into his pocket, producing a small velvet box. "Something else entirely." My heart stopped. "Roman, I know it's complicated. I know we started in the worst possible circumstances. I know there are people who will say it's too soon, too strange, too impossible." He opened the box, revealing a ring, simple, elegant, nothing like the ostentatious diamonds I might have expected. "But I also know that I love you, that I want to spend the rest of my life with you, that I can't imagine building this future with anyone else. You were married to my sister." "I was. And I'll always carry that love with me. But you're not Lydia, Sarah. You're yourself. Someone I fell in love with for entirely different reasons." He took my hand. "I'm not asking you to replace her. I'm not asking you to be anything other than what you are. I'm just asking you to be my partner. Officially. Permanently. People will talk. Let them." I stopped caring about what people think when I turned to my own mother. "It's not that simple. Nothing about us has ever been simple. But simple is overrated." He smiled slightly. "I want complicated. I want challenging. I want you." I looked at the ring. At him. At the life we'd built from the ashes of tragedy and deception. "Lydia would think I was insane," I said. "Probably. She'd also say I was the luckiest person alive. Also probably." I laughed, a wet, surprised sound. "You're really doing this? After everything?" "'Cause of everything. Every terrible, impossible, miraculous thing that brought us here." He slid the ring onto my finger. "Say yes, Sarah. Build a life with me. Officially." I looked at the ring on my finger. At the man who'd transformed from enemy to ally to partner to love. "Yes," I whispered. "Yes. Yes, I'll marry you." I pulled him into a kiss. "Yes, I'll build a life with you. Yes to all of it." He held me as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. Two people who'd found each other through lies and loss and the relentless pursuit of truth. "I love you," he said against my lips. "I love you too." I smiled. "Even though you're impossible. Especially because I'm impossible." Kissed me again. "That's what makes it interesting." The wedding was small. We held it at the Lydia Center, surrounded by staff and the first residents, women who'd found safety within walls we'd built. No media. No society guests. No one who'd known us before. "You look beautiful," Roman said when I met him at the makeshift altar. "You look terrified." "I am terrified. I'm marrying a woman who once broke into my house pretending to be my dead wife. That's legitimately alarming. And yet here you are. And yet here I am." He took my hands, ready to be legitimately alarmed for the rest of my life. We exchanged vows we'd written ourselves, promises of honesty, partnership, the commitment to keep choosing each other even when choosing was hard. "I came here looking for justice," I said. "I found something I wasn't expecting. Something I wasn't prepared for. Something that scared me more than any enemy ever could." "What was that?" "Love. Real, complicated, impossible love." I squeezed his hands. "I promise to keep loving you." even when you're difficult. Especially when you're difficult. I promise to be worth loving, he responded. To choose truth even when lies would be easier. To build a life worthy of the woman I lost and the woman I found. When we kissed, the residents cheered. Women who understood, perhaps better than anyone, what it meant to find hope after darkness, and standing there in the center named for my sister, I finally understood why she believed in love even when it seemed impossible, because sometimes impossible things come true, you just have to be brave enough to let them. 2 years later, the Lydia Center had grown beyond anything we'd imagined. What started as a single shelter in Connecticut had become a network. 5 locations across the Northeast, serving over 1,000 women annually. The model we'd created was being replicated in other states, other countries, by other organizations inspired by what we'd built. The London group wants to meet next month, I said, reviewing emails at the kitchen table. They're opening their first facility in the spring. Tell them we'll video conference. I'm not flying across an ocean while you're this pregnant. I looked down at my belly, 7 months along, round and prominent beneath one of Roman's old shirts. I'm pregnant, not fragile. I could travel. You could. But you won't. He crossed to me, pressing a kiss to my forehead. Our daughter stays safe until she's ready to meet the world. No unnecessary risks. You've become very protective. I've always been protective. I just have more to protect now. His hand found my stomach, feeling for the kicks that had become frequent in recent weeks. Has she been active today? She kicked through my entire budget review. I think she disagrees with our allocation strategy. Already an opinionated Moretti. He smiled. She'll fit right in. The threat from Elena's allies had faded over time, not disappeared. Threats like that never fully disappeared, but diminished. The men who'd attacked Roman had been arrested, tried, and convicted. Others who might have followed their example had been deterred by the consequences. And Elena herself, serving life without parole, had stopped being a rallying point for those who still believed in the old ways. She's dying, Roman told me one evening after receiving a call from the prison. Cancer. The doctors give her 6 months. How do you feel about that? I don't know. He stared out the window at the winter landscape. She murdered my wife. She tried to destroy everything we've built. I should feel satisfied. Vindicated. But you don't. I feel empty. Tired. He turned to face me. She was my mother, Sarah. Despite everything, she was my mother. And now she's dying, and I don't know how to grieve someone I've spent 2 years trying to hate. Maybe you don't have to hate her. Maybe you can just let her go. Is that possible? After everything? I don't know. But holding on to anger hurts us more than it hurts her. And you've spent too long carrying that weight. I took his hand. Visit her. Say whatever you need to say. And then let it be finished. Will you come with me? If you want me to. I do. He squeezed my hand. I don't think I can face her alone. The prison visit happened a week later. Elena looked nothing like the formidable woman I'd confronted 2 years ago. The cancer had hollowed her out, pale, thin, diminished in ways that had nothing to do with her circumstances. Roman. Her voice was barely a whisper. You came. I almost didn't. I know. I wouldn't have in your place. Her eyes moved to me, to my visible pregnancy. A grandchild. I won't live to meet them. No. You won't. Perhaps that's appropriate. Given everything. She coughed, a wet, terrible sound. I've had time to think. To regret. Though I'm sure you don't believe that. I don't know what to believe about you anymore. Believe that I loved you. In my own way, however twisted. Everything I did for the family. For you. She reached out a trembling hand. I was wrong. About Lydia. About what protection meant. About so many things. Yes, you were. I'm sorry. The words came out broken. For what I took from you. From both of you. I watched Roman's face, the struggle between anger and something softer. Between the need for justice and the pull of blood. I can't forgive you, he said finally. What you did to Lydia, I can never forgive that. I know. But I can stop hating you. He took her hand, a gesture that seemed to cost him everything. I can let you die without carrying your weight anymore. That's more than I deserve. Probably. But it's what I'm able to give. Elena's eyes filled with tears, genuine tears, not the calculated displays I'd seen before. Take care of him, she said to me. He deserves better than what our family gave him. I will. And the child. Raise them differently. Without the darkness. Without the weight of legacy. That's the plan. She nodded, settling back against her pillows. Then perhaps something good came from all of this. Even from me. We left the prison in silence. In the car, Roman finally spoke. I thought I'd feel different. Lighter. But I just feel sad. That's okay. Complicated feelings are still feelings. She destroyed so much. Took so much. And yet, in the end, she was just a dying old woman who wanted her son's forgiveness. Did you give it? I gave what I could. Which isn't forgiveness exactly. But maybe it's close enough. He took my hand. Is that wrong? To feel sympathy for someone who did such terrible things. It's human. And being human isn't wrong, it's the whole point. I squeezed his hand. Lydia would have understood. She always believed people were more complicated than their worst actions. She was very wise. She was. And she loved you. That's why she married you, despite everything she knew about your family. I paused. She saw what I see now. Someone capable of choosing differently. Have I? Chosen differently? Look at what we've built. The center. The foundation. A life dedicated to helping people instead of controlling them. I smiled. Yes, Roman. You've chosen differently. Elena died 3 weeks later. Roman attended the funeral, a small, private affair, attended only by a handful of family members who still acknowledged the Moretti name. I stayed home, too far along in my pregnancy to risk the travel. When he returned, he was quiet. Contemplative. It's strange, he said that night. Being the last Moretti. The end of a line that's existed for generations. You're not the end. Our daughter will carry the name. Will she want to? Given everything it represents? She'll know what it can represent. What we've made it mean. I took his hand, placing it on my belly. She'll grow up knowing that names are what we make of them. That legacy is a choice, not a burden. You really believe that? I have to. Otherwise, what's the point of everything we've done? He was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled, tired but genuine. I love you, he said. Have I mentioned that lately? Not in the last hour. An oversight. I'll do better. He pulled me close, careful of my belly. Thank you. For staying. For believing I could be someone worth believing in. Thank you for proving me right. Sophia Lydia Moretti was born on a March morning, screaming her way into the world with the lungs of someone who intended to be heard. She's perfect, Roman whispered, holding her for the first time. Look at her. She's absolutely perfect. She has your eyes. She has your stubbornness. I can already tell. I laughed, exhausted but happier than I'd ever been. She's going to be a handful. She's going to be magnificent. He pressed a kiss to our daughter's forehead. Hello, Sophie. I'm your father. And I promise to spend every day of my life making sure you grow up in a world that deserves you. I watched them, my husband and my daughter, the family I'd never planned for, and felt something shift inside me. The last remnants of the anger and grief I'd carried since Lydia's death finally releasing their hold on my sister was gone. Nothing would change that. But her death had led me here, to this man, this child, this life I couldn't have imagined 3 years ago. That didn't make her death acceptable. Didn't make it okay, but it made it mean something. 1 year later that I stood in the garden of the Lydia Center's main facility, watching Sophie toddle across the grass toward Roman. She was walking now, unsteady but determined, refusing to be held back by her own limitations. "She's fearless," Roman observed, scooping her up before she could faceplant into a flower bed. "Absolutely fearless. She gets that from her aunt. I think she gets it from you." He settled Sophie on his hip, crossing to where I stood. "The expansion into California is confirmed. They break ground next month. I saw the reports. 12 new beds. Expanded services for children. All because of what we started here." He looked around at the garden, at the women reading on benches, at the children playing by the fountain, at the staff moving purposefully between buildings. "We did this, Sarah. Made something real from something terrible. Lydia did this. We just carried it forward. She started it. But we built it. And we'll keep building." He met my eyes. "For Sophie. For every woman who walks through our doors. For every person who's been told they're not worth saving. That's a lot of responsibility. We're up to it." He kissed my forehead. "We've proven that." Sophie squirmed in his arms, reaching for me. I took her, settling her against my hip, breathing in the sweet baby smell that still made my heart ache. "Mama," she said, her newest word still fresh and thrilling. "Yes, baby. Mama's here." "She's getting so big," Roman said. "Growing so fast. That's what children do. They grow. They change. They become things we never expected. Like us. Like us." I smiled. Who would have thought? The con artist and the crime lord, raising a daughter and running a women's shelter. Life has a sense of humor. A dark sense of humor. The best kind. We walked back toward the main building together, Sophie babbling between us. The center was bustling, a full house, every bed occupied, every service in demand. "You know what today is?" Roman asked. "Wednesday. 3 years. Since you walked through my gate pretending to be my dead wife. I prefer to think of it as the anniversary of our partnership." "Is that what we're calling it?" "It's more romantic than the day I committed fraud to investigate you for murder." He laughed, a real laugh, warm and genuine. "Fair point. I don't regret it," I said quietly. "Any of it. Even the lies. Even the fear. Because it led here. To the center. To us. To Sophie. To a life that means something." I stopped, turning to face him fully. "Lydia died because she found the truth. But her death led to more truth about your family, about the darkness they'd hidden, about the possibility of something better." That's very philosophical. I've had time to think. Between diaper changes and board meetings. And what have you concluded? That meaning isn't something we find, it's something we create. From joy, from pain, from everything in between. I touched his face. We created meaning, Roman. From the worst circumstances imaginable. And it's beautiful. He kissed me, soft, tender, filled with everything we'd built together. "I love you, Sarah Moretti." "I love you too." I smiled against his lips. "Even though you're still a little terrifying. I prefer intimidating." "You would." Sophie grabbed both our faces with her chubby hands, demanding attention. We laughed, pulling apart to tend to our daughter, who was clearly unimpressed by our romantic moment. "Come on," Roman said. "Let's show Sophie the new wing. She should know what her legacy looks like. She's 1 year old. It's never too early to start." We walked into the building together, A family built from tragedy, sustained by love, dedicated to something larger than ourselves, and somewhere I knew Lydia was watching, proud of what her death had created, proud of who we'd become, proud that her name would live on, not in darkness but in light. Thank you so much for joining.